What's going on, guys? Today we are going to be building an ODST inspired build using our Skybreaker kit and some other pieces. First, we're going to start by picking out some pieces that we want for the build. During this process, we'll try out a couple different things and see what works best. I had a loose idea of what I wanted to use during this build, so doing a loose fit, seeing how things are going to come together, see which ones work best. Okay, now that we've settled on what we are going to be building, using this fabric tack to seal the suit up. This is just a fabric glue. I found this one to work out the best. It doesn't really have a strong odor. It adheres nice. So I will do a tack at the top, kind of lock things in place, and then come back and do a line of this to seal the suit in. We're going to be covering the suit with armor, so I'm not worried about gluing them in. Next, we're going to be cutting some material for some straps. We're going to be doing some loose wraps around the arms and midsection. Using that fabric glue, going to apply that and wraps the old arms up. So after you have that initial tack down, then I'm going to go ahead and lay it down on the arm, just kind of cover it nicely, and that should allow us to wrap. I really like the fabric tack because it doesn't cause the material to stiffen, which is something that a super glue would do. Here we're just going to trim it, and then we'll do the other arm and see where that takes us. Alright, now we've got our wrappings finished. We're going to start to accessorize and build up the figures. So first I'm doing a belt with a 6mm elastic. I'm just adhering it in one point, and then the rest of it will be adhered to itself. Giving a little bit of a tension there so that way it holds nice and snug, and then tacking down that excess. This will give us a good support platform if we want to clip anything onto the belt or anything like that later. Alright, now we're getting the old tiny brush out, and we're just going to go ahead and lay down some layers. Typically I like to do this in a few layers, starting just kind of with a lighter coat. As you build this up, it'll become more opaque, and we'll get rid of those brush strokes that you're seeing right now. So typically 2 to 3 layers with like a yellow. Some other colors take a few less, but here we're polishing that up, and I'm just going to go ahead and do that on all the armor pieces that we want some of that color. A lot of people ask me, what's the best brush to use, and I personally go for the cheapest, whatever kind of brush. You could definitely use a finer brush, but I found this wide brush to actually be my go-to when painting these figures.
Please remain seated.
Everything is gonna be alright.
When painting these pieces, I tend to do a faster, more chaotic brush stroke. Find that it helps minimize that paint stroke that you get when you do a more steady, concentrated painting style. I don't know, just found it to work for me. Speed brushing, I don't know.
Don't let it rule you. Everything's gonna be alright.
Don't let it rule you.
Alright, now we're going to tack on some extra belts for the accessories. So this, I'm just applying a little bit of glue, and then we're going to pull this through, so that way it glues underneath there, and then we'll clip off the excess here. Now we have a platform to adhere our armor pieces to. Typically I don't like to glue them directly to the suit, just in case you want to remove them later or change them out, something like that. But you could totally glue this directly to the suit if you wanted to. You'll notice giving these a little bit of a twist. I find that that helps from keeping the material bunching up while putting on something like a shin armor. So for the elastic, I'm using a Gorilla Super Glue Gel. I found that to be really strong stuff. It's what I'll use to adhere all the armor pieces to those elastic pieces as well. Doesn't bleed everywhere, so you don't get a big goopy mess. Sometimes it does have some adhesion problems. You just give it a good shake and it should be back on track. Next, we're going to be using this rub and buff to create a weathered look. I'm just using a fine-tipped Q-tip essentially, going through and highlighting those edges to really bring out some of that sculpt work and show that wear and tear. Alright, going in with the Rhinox hide, we're going to be using the tactical sponge. Just any old sponge will work, but what we are basically doing here is dabbing on some speckling to further our weathered look. So coming in, hitting those edges, changing the pressure applied for areas that I want bigger spots or littler spots. Kind of the harder you push, the more of that is going to come out of the sponge. So for those areas like on the crotch where you want just a little bit of speckling, it's just a light pressure. And then I'm going to follow that up with a little bit of silver inside. and using the rub and buff. You don't want a big old globular on your tool, so that's why I was rubbing that off there. You want just a light layer. It doesn't take very much pressure at all. Just kind of go in and hit all the areas. It is a wax-based substance, so you can rub it around with your finger, and get some different variations there. You want to be careful not to touch it too much until it sets up, or you put a seal coat on it. Typically I'll use like a Mr. Hobby's Super Matte Clear for a seal coat, and you can do that at any point throughout the build where you want to lock in the work that you've done. Alrighty, starting to come together. We are going to add in some finer details now and see where that gets us. Alright, we are good to glue our chest piece in, and voila! These are our ankle adapters so that our shoes can plug in nicely. They're made out of a flexible material, so they just plug in and then the shoe just slips on top of that. And from there you are good to go. So this is one of our master grade helmets. What's really cool about them is that the visor is a separate piece, so we're using a piece of vinyl here to apply to the visor, which we will install in a minute or two. It's just basically like a sticker. We're going to peel this off and then trim the excess down. That way it's close to the original shape, and then to finish that off, just file those edges so that way everything's nice and smooth prior to installation. Visor is in, and if you're happy with the visor, you can glue that in. I was just testing it here, so didn't apply that glue just yet, but I will in a little bit. Using one of the head adapters, and this is the helmet insert, so that basically plugs in there and then creates a plug and play system for our head, which goes on nicely. This allows you to swap out helmets at a later date or anything if you don't want to adhere it all down. Super strong system, allows you to pose the head and not have that wobbliness. And there you have it. That is our finished build. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, leave a like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Really helps out the channel. I appreciate you guys taking the time to watch this. So, thanks.